What is going on today, guys? Tomcat here, and today we are back in Spin Tires for a vehicle that is it's kind of actually innovative. It's the UAZ Project Ditch, which it's pronounced ditch, but they spell it wrong on the workshop. So on the Steam workshop, it's just D-I, like the Project D-I-C-H. So I don't know, but regardless of the spelling errors, it's basically they took a UAZ and they put it on top of a massive truck frame, a massive 6x6 truck frame, and kind of went to town with the modifications. Now, it's got that, you know, ridiculous front bumper and I guess kind of over-fender combination that kind of comes included with that frame. But you can put a bed on it, you can put some off-road upgrades on it, and you can put stuff in the back. Now, one of the main reasons why I'm really happy that I started out on this particular map is because you get to see the comparison to a stock UAZ. I mean, you can see, really, it's just a UAZ body sitting on a huge, huge frame, which admittedly is not, like, the most brilliant idea in the world, but it's not a terrible one either. It's actually a really cool, it's a really cool concept, I think. Now, is it the best looking vehicle out there? I'm not, I would kind of go back and forth, really, on that one. We'll kind of go back and forth, really, on that one. I mean, that's one of those things where if you like the way a UAZ looks, you might like this, but if you don't like the way a UAZ looks, you're definitely not going to like this truck. So, I like it because it looks like something that some crazy person in the middle of the woods would retrofit with a bunch of parts they had laying around, like they had a Kraz frame and a UAZ body. I don't even think this is a Kraz frame. It looks longer than a Kraz frame, but regardless, a frame like that, set their UAZ body on top of it, and, you know, hooked up some controls, figured out the drive line, and went to town, basically. Because, dude, this thing could freaking go to town. I mean, those tires have got to be at least 46 inches tall or higher. It just barrels down hills. There's really nothing that can get in its way. Until later in the video, you guys will see there is something that does get in its way. But I'll leave that for a surprise. But I will go ahead and tell you that one of the biggest stumbling blocks of this truck as a whole is it's super top heavy. Now, I think you could probably figure that out by just looking at it, but still, it's super, super, super top heavy, and I don't know where it totally gets that from. I think it probably gets that from a combination of really, you know, the way they have it programmed, but at the same time, I mean, like, right here, if those trees weren't there, we would have flipped immediately. Like, especially the one at the back of the bed, if that wasn't there, it would have been on its side or on its roof, no problem. And as you'll see here, just a little bit of a hill will turn it onto its side if you don't hit the hill properly. Now, is it a problem? Not really, but, like, definitely something you gotta think about moving along with, you know, with driving it. If you're gonna actually be using it for an objective-based game or an objective-based, you know, match or something you're doing with friends. Oh, by the way, it also has a tendency to glitch into the ground. If you rescue it to the garage, the axles are a little funky, so either the rear axle or the front axle may glitch into the ground. The front axle will usually just recover itself. It'll usually it'll spawn in the ground and then kind of bounce out of it. Whereas the rear axle usually doesn't do that. If the rear axle gets stuck in the ground, you got to reset it. So that's just kind of one of those weird things about certain mods, and this one in particular, I think it's probably to do with the programming of the way he's got his suspension and tire geometry set up, but I don't make mods, so I don't exactly know. I'm just guessing on that, but that's what it seems like it would be to me. So, the question, too, is, like, I looked at this, and I was like, that's not, you know, oh, yeah, huge crash right here. Huge crash. When this thing starts rolling, it keeps rolling and doesn't stop rolling until it eventually, you know, comes to a rest. Which, to be fair, usually, like, if you got a big hill, it's going to keep rolling, and it takes a while for this thing to come to a resting place at the bottom of the hill. But, going back up the hill, this was something that was kind of, for me, I was like, yeah, this is going to be good. It's going to make it back up the hill, no problem. I spoke a little soon on that, to be brutally honest. It didn't do as good of a job of going up the hill as I thought it would. I'm not sure why it didn't do as good of a job of making it up the hill, but it's just kind of weird, man. It would normally, I think, do a better job of making it up the hill, but it was a surprise to get to this point, and the truck was just kind of like, yeah, sorry, this is where we stop. And I'm like, are you really? Like, are you kidding me, dude? Are you kidding me? That's kind of how I was feeling when I got to this point, because I'm like, you have huge tires, you have 6 points of contact with the ground, the truck is heavy, so it should be able to push those tires into the ground with that weight, but it's got more than enough torque to move itself up hills. But I think right at about this point, we found out that it lacked grip, and it just kind of was like, yeah, that's as far as I go. And I'm like, well, hey, I mean, if that's as far as it's going, then that's as far as it's going, I guess. So regardless, definitely going to be something that I think will, kind of hurt this truck in terms of usability on some of the really hard maps. As a multi-purpose recon vehicle, I think it's really good, except for the fact that, like, okay, it does great in stuff like mud and things like that, but going up hills, you don't want this thing. You really, like, it plain and simple, you don't want this thing if you're going up hills. And I can, like I said, that was a little disappointing to me, because I really wanted this truck to be like a 10 out of 10. I was like, dude, this thing looks freaking badass. I want it to be a 10 out of 10. It's gotta be a freaking crazy-ass 10 out of 10. And I'm like, dude, it's not. When I got to this hill, and I was like, let me try it in low, like one of the low-range gears, like low 2 or maybe low 3, it got even, you know, like less far up the hill. So it was kind of like, wow, maybe this truck isn't ridiculously crazy, but I mean, at the same time, I think it performs as it would if somebody had built it for real. Maybe not exactly as it would if somebody built it for real, but closer than if it would, you know, if it was just, you know, gonna fly up everything. To see, when you think about it, you know, some people would rather have a truck that's crazy and flies up everything and goes anywhere. They should get CCS's trucks. That is not a jab at CCS, though. Not a jab at CCS. The guy is awesome. Anyways, but if you want something really, you know, a little bit more challenging, maybe more realistic, this thing might be fun. You know, it might be fun for you. It might be something that you're looking for, and I think it might fill that niche of people that want really crazy-looking trucks, but also at the same time, trucks that aren't, you know, cartoonishly fast and will go up anything. However, this thing, as you can see here, will go up trees, which was very surprising to me. I didn't even think it was going to come close to that. And then we went a little bit too far, and it once again proved how easy it was to roll itself over. So that in itself was kind of like, yeah. And you can see, every single time we've spawned it back into the garage, we've had a slight spawning issue and ground glitch with the wheels, or wheels and tires. And again, that's just another one of those things that is what it is. But I think overall, I would give this truck, maybe like if I'm gonna like rate it out of 10, quote unquote, I'd probably give it like an 8 or like a 7.5. It's a really good truck. It's a really fun truck. It's a little weird looking. If you don't like the UAZ, you're not gonna like it. But if you do like the UAZ, you'll probably love it. And it's not, you know, mind-blowing, world-class performance. But at the same time, there's not really many other vehicles that look this badass doing normal tasks in spin tires. And I think that's one of those things that you can't really replace about this truck, is it's always going to look badass. It's always going to be a badass rig, and it's always going to look the part. The only problem is it can't go upstream either. It's just like, nah. My grip stops here, bro. It's like, my grip stops here, you're good, we're good, done. You know what I mean? Like, done, period. So when you hit this truck's limit, it stops, and there's not really much working your way around that. Like, this truck has a limit, and then when it hits that limit, the truck is done, and you got to be okay with the fact that it's done, because if you're not, you're either going to be sitting in one spot spinning, or you're going to have to just go get another truck. So know that going in with this thing, that it is going to have those little things that are like, yeah, they might not be the greatest thing to deal with, but they are definitely, like, they're not a big deal. They're not like, oh my god, this truck's terrible. They're just like things you have to think about over the course of driving it. So, if you guys enjoyed this quick little mod review, don't forget to leave me a like, tell me in the comments down below what y'all thought of it, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more. I'll see y'all next time. Talk to you guys later.